What is architecture?
There are at least as many definitions of architecture as there are architects or people who comment on the practice of it. While some embrace it as art, others defend architecture's seminal social responsibility as its most definitive attribute. To begin a sentence with architecture is a bold step into treacherous territory. And yet, many of us have uttered, or at least thought, architecture is. While we've toiled away on an important project, or reflected on why we've chosen this professional path.
Cambridge Dictionary. 1. Architecture is the art and practice of designing and making buildings. 2. Architecture is the style in which buildings are made.
Architecture is the art and technique of designing and building, as distinguished from the skills associated with construction. The practice of architecture is employed to fulfill both practical and expressive requirements, and thus it serves both utilitarian and aesthetic ends. This collection of statements illustrates the changing breadth of architecture's significance. We may define it differently when talking among peers, or adjust our statements for outsiders.
Le Corbusier.
Better known as Le Corbusier, he was an architect, theorist, urban planner, space designer, painter, sculptor, and man of letters who declared that architecture is the starting point for anyone who wants to take humanity towards a better future.
Louis Kahn,
who was a renowned architect of his time, defined architecture as the ponderous creation of spaces.
Peter Eisenman.
Architecture is definitely a political act.
Tom Main.
Architecture is a way of seeing, thinking, and questioning our world and our place in it.
Jark Ingels.
Architecture is the art and science of making sure that our cities and buildings actually fit with the way we want to live our lives, the process of manifesting our society into our physical world.
Mario Botta.
Architecture is an artificial fact.
Roland Barthes.
Architecture is always dream and function, expression of a utopia and instrument of a convenience.
Norman Foster.
Architecture is an expression of values, the way we build is a reflection of the way we live.
Ludwig Mies van der Rohe.
Architecture is the real battleground of the spirit.
Paul Rudolph.
Architecture is not a question of the purely theoretical if you're interested in building buildings. It's the art of what is possible.
Arjen Oosterman.
Architecture is about improving conditions, environmental, social, and sometimes also political.
Xiaodu Liu.
Architecture is not just one thing. It is not just an art. It has to deal with the real situation, it has to do something good for the society.
Sean Lally.
Architecture is much more than the building of an object on a site, it is a reinvention of the site itself.
Prince Charles.
Architecture is a language. New designs should abide by grammatical rules to avoid dissonance with existing structures.
Matthew Hoffman.
Architecture is an untapped source of magnificent stories waiting to be imagined, visualized, and built.
Rem Koolhaas.
Architecture is a very complex effort everywhere. It's very rare that all the forces that need to coincide to actually make a project proceed are happening at the same time.
Jay Pritzker.
Architecture is intended to transcend the simple need for shelter and security by becoming an expression of artistry.
Philippe Davrio.
Architecture is the only art that you can't help but feel. You can avoid paintings, you can avoid music, and you can even avoid history. But good luck getting away from architecture.
Catherine Slessor.
Architecture is characterized by endurance and longevity, a long education, long training, long hours, and long lives.